Hello everyone and welcome back to Lucky Loaders 15, where I'll be giving you 6 of my best tips for tomorrow's racing. Now before we get stuck into that, I quickly just want to reflect on how our selections performed today. Now if you watched the preview I did on my YouTube channel for Boxing Day that I released a couple of days ago, I have to admit all of our selections were very disappointing today. The only one that can come out with a little bit of credit was Southfield Harvest at Wincanton. We put him up as my next best for Lorcan Williams and Paul Nicholls. He ran well for a very long way, but in the end just lost out to a more unexposed type. But I still think he ran, like I said, a good race, and probably that trip is just slightly on the sharp side for him. He probably wants 3 miles. He probably wants to step up in trip because he really did grind it out, and he did put it up to the winner. But in the end, the winner just had a little bit more toe, and the pair were well clear of anything else in the field, So Southfield Harvest, in the end, he just got outdone, but I still think he was probably, out of all of them at least, the one to take from our selections today. So yeah, Southfield Harvest was the only one of note that did any good, but we backed him to win on the nose. So yeah, it was still a loss-making tip. The other 3 tips were very disappointing. Hold the Note that I really fancied was my nap of the day and of the Christmas period. Never could land a blow in the end. Went out from the front early on, which I didn't think was bad tactics. Try and make the most of his stamina, but in the end, I just couldn't go with him. It was very, very disappointing. I wasn't the only one that fancied him. There was quite a bit of money around for him, so it wasn't like he was unfancied, and you could see why. He looked well handicapped on paper. He had some good form going through the book, and you thought the drop down in trip, especially after his last run where he ran well for a long way, would have definitely put him in with a massive chance that you would have thought all of that way into the pan you would have thought he would have been there. But yeah, nothing really to say about him. Maybe he could turn up at Cheltenham and run a good race in the plate. Maybe Cheltenham's his track, but over 2.5 miles. But yeah, who knows? The winner, Killer Clown, yeah, that was a bit of a head banger there, because if you've been following my work and you've been watching me for a long time, you know that I would have put up Killer Clown on at least 2 occasions this year. When we put him up at Exeter when he didn't quite stay 3 miles, and also as well we put him up when he ran in the novices handicap chase at Uttoxeter when he fell early on through no fault of his own. So yeah, a bit of a headbanger there today. Didn't have a penny on Killer Clown, and that's the way it goes. Black Bow was very disappointing. He fell early on, so we didn't really get to see his potential. Maybe he could have won the race, the outsider of the field, or at least Willie Mullins, his second string, was the winner there. Franco Deporte, none of the main protagonists turned up, so who knows how good that particular form is. And then yeah, our other selection, the Longshot Brunswick Babe, just could never really get into it. It was out the back, wasn't jumping at all very fluently, and in the end was very disappointing. So yeah, if you watch my YouTube channel, we have had a disappointing day here. However, if you listen to the In the Saddle podcast, which I told you to go and have a listen to, and there are links to it in the description box below, and you listen to some of my thoughts on the big races there, you would have come out with a little bit of profit if you decided to go with some of those selections. Put up Sham Blue, but that was quite an obvious one, really. He did really look like the standout, but I have to give credit to the big breakaway, who I did think ran a very encouraging race, despite obviously making quite a few errors along the way. I think if he could clean up his jumping, I think he might be able to turn around the form of Sham Blue come the RSA. So I hope some of you maybe took my word there with Sham Blue. And also as well, I actually put up Silver Streak. I actually put a free bet on him, so I actually was up there. I've actually done all right today away from my selections, believe it or not. I've made a few quid, and I also as well had a saver on Frodon in the King George. And what race that turned out to be. I know loads of people were slagging it off, saying what a poor King George it was, Frodon won it. But that's taken quite a lot away from Frodon, who we do know, when he's on his game, is an absolutely class horse. Obviously a Grade 1 winner, won the Ryanair, and done really well a couple of times over 3 miles in his career. He's won a Cotswold Chase. He won a great, really decent handicap at Cheltenham very well, beating Cloth Cap, which that form was boosted, off top weight at Cheltenham. Not an easy thing to do, and he jumped very well today and was really in the mood for it. And plus he was a course winner at Kempton earlier on back in January, so the course was in his favour. So yeah, Frodon, I don't think there was no fluke about it. And yes, the others were disappointing, but maybe we were just getting sucked into it, And if you actually look at who could have run in the King George, there's not too many horses in a stable somewhere that could have turned up. There was Gold Cup candidates in there, former King George winners, the highest rated horse win in surname in the UK. It was a really strong field. There's no other horses that could have turned up that might have beaten Frodon. So yeah, no excuses there, you know, for a lot of them. If they were good enough, they should have beaten Frodon. But Frodon, we shouldn't underestimate him, you know, and who knows, maybe in a slightly run race like a similar race last year in the Cheltenham Gold Cup, he could be a player. I know a lot of people probably wouldn't say that, you know, they probably think he lacks the stamina, but he's shown twice this season that he can run over 3 miles, and it's annoying when the jumps get taken away. When the jumps get taken away, he can't win he can't win races, because that's his main asset, is jumping, and we saw that obviously in the Old Rowan last year, and also as well in the Many Clouds Chase Aintree, where again all the fences were omitted there, and it was probably not his track too. So yeah, Frodon, don't underestimate him. I think he was a worthy winner on the day. I know a lot of you might disagree, and a lot of you are probably going to disagree with my tips tomorrow. But yeah, I don't think people should be giving the King George slack. You know, I think it was a decent renewal, but in the end, the horses that were running it, the ones at the top of the betting, were just very disappointing and had no answers today. So yeah, that's my thoughts and feelings, and also as well, a quick recap there on how our selections performed today. Anyway, let's get into the tips for tomorrow. Like I said at the top of this video, I fancy quite a lot tomorrow. There's 6 tips in this video, and there will only be 1 at Chepstow. I did fancy a couple of others, but because they're going to be inspecting in the morning and there's a storm coming and we're going to be having some rain tonight in the UK, it could be off, because they are having an inspection at 7:45 in the morning. So stay tuned to all the racing media outlets or social media to see if it passes the inspection, but they are quite confident it will. So yeah, enough of that. Let's get into the tips then for tomorrow's racing. Now we're going to be starting off tomorrow with my next best, which runs in the 110 at Leopardstown. Now, people before I already say my horse, they're going to be going, oh, he's going for Chacun Pour Soi. Well, I'm not. If you've already listened to the In the Saddle podcast, you'll know I'm quite sweet on one here, and that is Notebook for Rachel Blackmore and Henry de Bromhead. Now, you can currently back this horse at 9-2 with bookmakers at the moment. Now, I touched upon in the Saddle podcast episode why I was against Chacun Pour Soi. Chacun Pour Soi for me is a horse that I've never particularly warmed to, and also as well, I don't think he's as classy as what people think. I might have egg on my face this time tomorrow. Obviously, I'm prepared to do that and stick my neck out the line, because there's just something about the horse. I don't know what it is, but I just think he's been flattered a couple of times during his career to make people think he's absolutely top class. Now, I can go through some of it. He lost obviously in this race last year. Okay, probably needed that race fitness, you know, and that's why he lost out to Plutard, who I did back that day. But Chacun Pour Soi, when he beat Defi, for example, Defi had a hard season, and he was entitled to come in as a fresher horse to win that race, and that's why I believe he beat Defi that day. Also as well, people will point out, oh wait, he beat Min, you know, and Min went on to win the Ryanair. That's a really strong piece of form, and it was probably one of the best races we saw last year. But if you actually look at the race as a whole, I thought the way Min was ridden by Robbie Power, I didn't think the ride was very good at all by Robbie that day. He went far too fast, in my opinion, because he just tried to chase Ornua. And you don't want to chase a horse like Ornua, you know, who just tries to go really hard early on, and then he probably just got tired. And then if you actually watch the race back, Min was closing again at the line because Chacun Pour Soi was tired, and he just got the complete run of the race that day. So I think Chacun Pour Soi has had a few things in his favour that have made him look a little bit better than he really is. But yeah, but some of you probably won't buy that at all. But he's just a horse that I've never warmed to, and I wasn't particularly impressed by his return at Cork. Yes, he couldn't have done any more, you know, and won by ease, but I thought he looked a little bit laboured, you know, and he looked like he really needed the run. Maybe the run will bring him spot on tomorrow, but he's just a horse I can't have at all. He's a horse that I've just never brought into. And if you actually look at this race as a whole, I think it's a bit of it's probably some of the best opposition, if not the best opposition he's taken on in his career so far, because I think Notebook and Put the Kettle On are definitely no mugs, and he's going to have to be right at the top of his game I think to beat both of these, and I'll be concerned about him. Now, Willie Mullins hasn't had a good record in this race in recent years. He's had a couple of short price favourites that have flopped, including Footpad, and also as well with Chacun last year losing to a Plutard. And I've actually backed the last 2 winners of this race, because I remember backing Simply Ned at 16-1 when he overturned Footpad, and also as well I had a bit on a Plutard last year. So it's a race I haven't got a bad record in. And if you actually look at the record of favourites in this race, since 2013, only one favourite has won, and that was Duvan back in in back in 2016 when he won at odds on of 1 to 8 on. So yeah, it's not a particularly good race for the favourites, but I'm really taken with Notebook here for Rachel Blackmore and Henry de Bromhead. Now this horse has won 5 of his 6 starts. The only disappointment he's had in his career so far is when he flopped at Cheltenham in the Arkle, but Cheltenham is a track that he's never done particularly well at, and also as well the fact that the crowds around. He's quite a buzzy kind of horse, and he hasn't always reacted well to crowds at a racecourse. But the fact obviously Irish racing is behind closed doors like it is for the much of the UK at the moment, that's going to be another positive in his book. So he's won 5 out of his 6 career chase starts, and also as well he's undefeated over the course and distance. He won at this meeting last year, winning the Racing Post Novices Chase Grade 1, and then he went on to win the Irish Arkle, you know. So he's a top class horse, and he looks a very promising candidate in this race tomorrow. Now also as well, if you go back to his seasonal reappearance when he won a Grade 2 Nace, he was beating much the same horses in there that Chacun Pour Soi did, you know, and there's not much between them on the ratings, you know, and I think Notebook is still improving, and Chacun is just a horse, like I said, I've never won to, and I think he'll get overturned here tomorrow. I just think Notebook, this is a home game for him. I know Chacun Pour Soi has obviously won, he won the Dublin Chase earlier this year at the Dublin Racing Festival, but I just really like Notebook, and I think he will turn up tomorrow and get the job done. And I think at 9-2, I'm willing to take a chance there, and I'm really sweet on his chances. It's more the fact that I'm just not a massive Chacun Pour Soi fan, but I really do like Notebook for this race, and that's why he's going to be my nap of the day. So, no, next best of the day, sorry. That is, that's Notebook there in the 110 at Leopardstown in the Grade 1. We then go to the nap of the day, which runs at Wetherby in the Class 2 Castleford Chase there, the 210, and we are going to be going with a horse here called Nutswell for Danny McMenamin and claiming free, and he's riding for Anne Hamilton. Now this horse Nutswell is in great form at the moment. He's won 5 of his last 6 starts, including a couple of them here at Wetherby. Now his form this season has been very, very good. He beat I Right of Harriet Graham's at Chepstow, and I Right we've seen boost the form on 2 occasions, finishing in 3rd place in the Charlie Hall behind Surname, and also as well running a cracker in the Ladbrokes Trophy at Newbury. So that's a piece of good form. He then went on to win the Grade 2 Old Rowan Chase at Aintree a couple of months ago, and that form has thrown out a couple of winners. Clondor Castle's won, Magic Saint has won since, also as well Itchy Feet has ran okay. So yeah, it was quite a good renewal of that race, and despite having to carry top weight in this race tomorrow, I think he can get the job done, you know, and I think he shouldn't be underestimated. Now, there's currently 5-2 out there with Bet365 at the time of recording, which I do think's fair value. He only has to give a couple of pounds away to First Flow, who will be the danger tomorrow, but I'm just not convinced about First Flow this way around. I think he's better at going right-handed than left-handed, even though he has shown he can go well left-handed, but I think going the other way around, he is a slightly better horse, and he will want it to be significantly more heavy tomorrow. Whereas even though there is rain coming in tomorrow, it might not be too testing at Wetherby. You know, I think it will be just soft ground, you know, and it does drain quite well there. So yeah, I think Nutswell tomorrow, I think he'll take all the beating in this race, and I think he'll get another win on his CV. We then go with an extra tip for tomorrow's racing, which runs in the 2:30, the Desert Orchid Chase. Now again, a lot of people are going to be thinking, oh, he's going for Altior here, but I'm not going to be going with Altior. I am going to be taking Altior on. I think he's too short in the betting, and I think Rouge Vif at 8-1 is worth a win-only bet, because I think he's definitely going to serve it up to Altior tomorrow. He's trained by Harry Whittington, who had a really good performance, a good tune out of St Calvados today for the Brooks family, and Gavin Sheehan is booked for the ride on Rouge Vif. Now, this horse has done quite well, I think, so far this season. He bolted up in a handicap at Cheltenham off a mark of 156, beating some useful rivals. He then, finished 3rd in the Tingle Creek, where we were meant to see Altior a couple of weeks ago at Sandown. However, I just think Rouge Vif, he had a couple of things against him that day. I don't think the track would have been particularly in his favour. I don't think the stiff uphill finish at Sandown would have been in his favour at all. And also as well, the soft ground, you know, it was quite testing that day at Sandown, even though there was a great debate about the ground. It was fairly testing at Sandown, but a lot of his best form has come on good to soft ground. So yeah, Rouge Vif, I think you can actually mark up that run last time out at Sandown, because I just think there are a couple of things against him. But yeah, if you look at this race tomorrow, Altior obviously is going to be taking up a lot of the market odds on, rightly so. Obviously he's undefeated over 2 miles. He's been a great horse for the game, a multiple champion chaser, 2 times winner. Got a great record pretty much everywhere. He's won round here a few times during his career, including this race a couple of years ago. However, he is getting on now. He will be 11 next year, so he is definitely in the twilight years of his career. But I just think if something can go out and make the run-in tomorrow, he could be beaten, because I just think that turn of foot, to me, it didn't look particularly there in the gallop. And also as well, it's a concern that I think he didn't run in the Tingle Creek, when we know, like, obviously the ground was the main argument for why he didn't run. However, he had run on the ground similar to that before and shown some of his best form. So I would have a few question marks over that. And I think there's some handy rivals in here. And I think Rouge Vif is definitely a slightly bigger price there. Now, he's got not a bad record here at the course. He's finished second in a novice hurdle behind Mr. Fisher. Okay, that's on the hurdle course. But then he ran really well in the Grade 2 novices chase here last season behind Global Citizen when finishing in second place. But Global Citizen, despite winning that day, he, in my opinion, even though he's running in this race tomorrow, I should mention, I don't think he's quite in the same form as he was last year. And I think Rouge Vif has improved with every run since last year, and I think he's a much better horse now than Global Citizen. So I expect the running tomorrow to be made by Global Citizen, because he normally has only one way of going out from the front. But I think his run at Exeter and the Howden Gold Cup was very lackluster. But if Rouge Vif can just track him, and get ahead of Altior, I think he might just be able to bully and dictate this race halfway through it, because if he can get into a good rhythm, just sit behind Global Citizen, I think he might be able to upset him. We saw today that if you could get in front of the main protagonists, like with Frodon, like with Silver Streak, you can get them beat. And I think sometimes Kempton, especially as well over the chase course, it can suit to be handy, So Nico's going to have his work at tomorrow. And plus we get £3 from Altior as well, because he's going to be obviously carrying the Group 1 penalties, where Rouge Vif only has to carry 11 stone free. So yeah, I think there's a lot in Rouge Vif's favour tomorrow, and it would only take Altior to run a few pounds below his best, And I just think he might really need the run. So for me, I think Rouge Vif, it comes in here with some really good form. I think the track will suit, and I like his way of running, especially for this track. So yeah, a lot to like about Rouge Vif tomorrow to run a really good race. And I think at 8-1, I think he can put it up to Altior and finally get him beat over 2 miles. So that's going to be an extra tip there in the 2:30 at Kempton. An extra tip tomorrow runs in the Welsh National in the 250 at Chepstow. I might have put this up as a nap or a next best even, because I am really sweet on this horse. I've been going on about this horse for a long time, but because of that inspection early in the morning, potentially it might be called off. So I thought I'd just put this one as an extra tip. So this horse that I'm going to be going for then in the Welsh National, the 250, is Springfield Fox for James Byrne and Tom George. Now this horse, like I said, I've been really sweet on him for a while. I've been sweet on him ever since last season when he won a couple of really decent novice handicaps. He won some novice handicaps at Chepstow, actually, on his chase debut in really testing ground over 3 miles, and he seemed to relish the conditions that day and definitely put in a very good round of jumping. He then went on to maintain that form by definitely improving again to win at Exeter, absolutely hacking up by 17 lengths. And then he fell in the National Hunt Chase when he still had every chance, early on. He was only halfway through the race, so you can put a line through that one. So without that, he comes in here, I think, with an unbelievable chance. And he's been given a mark of 142 to run in this race tomorrow, which I definitely think is a very workable mark. And I suspect he could have a few pounds up his sleeve. I'll be disappointed if he didn't turn out to be near a 150 horse. So with the ground in his favour tomorrow, his running style likely to suit, I think there's a lot of things in his favour. Also as well, he's got a really interesting profile because he won both his point-to-points and then he went over hurdles, but he didn't last long over hurdles, and in the same season, that's when Tom George decided to put him over fences. And it was definitely a bold call. He's already, as well, I should have mentioned earlier, had a prep run already. He's got a fitness edge under his belt. He had a run over hurdles a few weeks ago on the Welsh National Grand National Trial Day at the beginning of the month where he finished in second place, but I wouldn't read too much into that. You know, he's a much better chaser than he is a hurdler. So yeah, it was just a run to put him spot on for this. Connection seemed to be absolutely happy with him. Johnny Burke would normally be riding this horse, but he's out in the sidelines at the moment with a slight knock. So yeah, I'm gutted for him because I think he would have definitely got a good tune out of this horse. But James Byrne is no negative. He actually won this race. You might remember when I think he was a 17-year-old riding for Gavin Cromwell when he won on Rouge de Marino. So yeah, a lot to like about Springfield Fox tomorrow. Secret Reprieve obviously got a great chance on paper, looking at the weights and measures, but for me it's far too short in the betting, and he's going to have to put again another sensational performance down to win this, which I think might just be too much for him, because I think he really did put it in last time out despite it looking a comfortable success. And that sometimes I think we underestimate the effect that a tough race can have on a horse, and we obviously saw that today, in my opinion, with Clandazobo. So yeah, Springfield Fox, you can currently back this horse at 7-1 at the moment. That's available with William Hill at the time recording, who are offering an astounding 7 places on this race. So if you fancy Springfield Fox, that's where I would recommend you go for your each way bet, and I'd be disappointed, to be honest, if he couldn't go close to winning this. So Springfield Fox it is in the Welsh National. We then go to my long shot of the day, which runs in the 305 at Kempton with a horse called Mellow for former champion jockey Richard Johnson, and he's riding for Chris Gordon. Now, a lot of you might know that I always go on about Chris Gordon. He's my local trainer. I've been fortunate enough to visit his yard a couple of times over the last few years, and I always have plenty of time for his horses and always looking out for them. And he's definitely, I think, on course, if he continues his form throughout the season, to have his best ever season. He's had plenty of winners of late, you know, and this horse Mellow has been a good yard, been a good flag bearer for the yard over the years. Done really well at the likes of Fontwell and tracks like that. But yeah, I think he's got a good chance in this race tomorrow, because he returned to a little bit of form last time out when finishing in 3rd place at Newbury. Now, in that race, it was won by Christian Williams' Cap de Nord, but there was a big weight difference that day. Mellow was given plenty of weight to, I think it was around about £9-10 in the end. However, tomorrow there's only going to be £2 between them in the weights, so Mellow is much better treated. And also as well, splitting them that day was Alan King's Canelo, who's gone on to win the Roland Merrick Chase at Wetherby today. So the form has really taken a boost there. And I just think now Mellow is on a very workable mark. It's actually, in fact, his last winning mark. His last win came a couple of years ago when winning off a mark of 135 at Fontwell. And the way he likes to race as well, I think, will really suit Kempton. He's had excuses a few times, I think, when he's run at Kempton. Even though he's run there a few times during his career, I think all of them you could definitely put a line through, you know, and put an excuse down where he was running off too high marks or he was over hurdles. Put a line through those runs. I think tomorrow he's got every chance of running a very good race. He's a horse who likes to get on with things from the front, likes to be handy, and we've seen that style of racing to very good effect at Kempton today. The only issue is he probably wouldn't want it too soft, but I think at 12-1, who again is being offered by William Hill, paying 4 places, I think that is particularly good value, and I think he's up to winning definitely a race of this nature. So lots to like, I think, about Mellow tomorrow, and I'll be disappointed at least if he couldn't make the frame. So that's going to be my long shot in the 305 at Kempton. We then stay at Kempton for the last and final selection of the day, and it comes in the 340 handicap hurdle, and I'm going to be going with an old favourite of mine in this race, and that is Eddiemaurice for Robbie Dunn and John Flint. Now, I've backed him the last 3 years in this race, and he's done me favours every year. You know, he won this race back in 2018. He finished 3rd in it last year, and he finished 2nd in it back in 2017. So it's a race he's never been out the first 3 in the last 3 years, and it's a course that often plays to his strengths, and I think it's one that John Flint likes to target every year. Now, Eddiemaurice, last time we saw him, he finished in 7th place at Ascot, where he probably really needed the run, to be honest with you, but he ran, I think, with credit that day. He was staying on in his new normal customary style, which he usually does, often ridden out the back, you know, and is played late. That's the way he has to be ridden. But yeah, I thought he ran quite an eye-catching race and will definitely come forward for the run. Also as well, the form of that Ascot race has worked out quite well. It was the race won by Buzz, who ran a very credible race to finish 2nd last week in the listed handicap hurdle at Ascot. And his next start, you had Echo in there as well, Paul Nichols, who went on to win at Doncaster and ran a good race at Kempton today. So the form doesn't look too bad from that particular contest. And Eddiemaurice as well, he's down to a mark of 122, which is pretty much the same mark he's been running off the last couple of years in this race. So a lot to like about him tomorrow. You can currently get 10-1 with Skybet, who are offering 5 places. Again, like I said there, I'll be disappointed if he couldn't make the frame. I think he's great each way value, and I think he'll definitely give us a good run for our money. So that's going to be our other extra tip of the day. That's Eddiemaurice in the 340 at Kempton. So let's go through the tips then. In the 110 at Leopardstown, it's Notebook for Rachel Blackmore and Henry de Bromhead. That is the next best at 9-2. In the 210 at Wetherby, Nutswell is the nap of the day at 5-2. An extra tip, we're going to try and take on Altior with Rouge in the 230 at Kempton. Win only bet at 8-1. An extra tip of the day runs in the 250 at Chepstow. That's Springfield Fox. That is the Welsh National Fancy. 7-1 each way, 7 places. William Hill. In the 305 at Kempton, we go with Mellow Ben as the long shot of the day. 12-1, 4 places at the time recording with William Hill. And then in the 340 at Kempton, in the lucky last there, we go with Eddiemaurice at 10-1 each way, 5 places Skybet. So they're the 6 tips for tomorrow's racing. If you haven't done so already, please make sure you subscribe here to my YouTube channel to not miss out on any future videos. Also as well, if you haven't done so already, please make sure you give me a thumbs up here on my YouTube channel if you're enjoying these videos. If you want to follow me on social media, you can do. The best place to do so is on Twitter, where my handle is @LuckyLoader15. And if you want to know a little bit more about myself, my website is www.chrisloaderracing.co.uk. So please game responsibly. Hopefully we can have some winners tomorrow, and we'll be seeing you soon.